Footage emerges of the pre-game fight that sparked an all-in brawl between Australia and Philippines. Footage has emerged of a pre-game fight between Philippines and Australian basketball players, just moments before a wild brawl erupted between the two teams. Philippines basketball coach Vincent Chot said the tiff during warm-ups is to blame for the subsequent fight during the World Cup qualifying match. The video appeared to show a Filipino player trip a Boomers star Daniel Kickert while both teams performed their warm-up routines within close proximity of each other. Kickert responded by pushing another opposing player. Within seconds additional players appeared to get involved and officials were forced to intervene. Philippines coach Reyes claimed Kickert attacked Filipino players during warm-ups, and said his on-court elbow sparked the melee. Basketball Australia CEO Anthony Moore vehemently rejected Reyes' version of events, and said the truth will come out during a FIBA investigation. Monday's match between the Boomers and the Giants later erupted into violence in the third quarter of the game, with Filipino officials and staff joining in. Basketball's governing body, FIBA, had now opened disciplinary proceedings against both teams amid calls for life bans, or lengthy suspensions, to be handed out. The fight saw Australian guard Chris Goulding targeted in a sickening attack when the opposition bench cleared and he was bashed by 10 Philippines players and staff. "It's absolutely unacceptable, but the reality is Kickert was hitting our players during the warm-ups," Reyes claimed. "He hit Carl Brian Cruz, he hit Matthew Wright, Pogo, and he hit Calvin Abuva during the warm-ups. One thing they have to know about this team is we are not going to back down. We already restrained the players before the game. It's hard to restrain them." Reyes said he had ordered his players to calm down, but after Kickert elbowed Roger Ray Pogoy in the face they had no choice but to retaliate. "That triggered the entire brawl, and as unfortunate as it is, like I said, it's something that you have to be there to know what really went down," he said. In his Tuesday press conference, Mr. Moore denied there was any misconduct before the game began. "We heard the Filipinos' comments in relation to incidents in the warm-up. We absolutely refute that," he said. "That's something we absolutely don't believe occurred. That will come out in the tribunal process that FIBA undertakes." Australia is leading the Boomers 79-48 with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter of their FIBA World Cup qualifier at the Philippine Arena, Bulacan 0 o'clock. Philippines guard Roger Ray Pogoy hits his Boomers counterpart Chris Goulding with an elbow 0-01. Australian player Daniel Kickert retaliates with an elbow to Pogoy's face 0-02. Giants player Andre Blatch punches Kickert. Other players run in and throw coward punches 0-05. An all-in brawl erupts on the court with the entire Philippines team rushing and joined by coaches, staff and team management. Goulding is swarmed and ends up under a pylon 0-07. Milwaukee Bucks NBA star Thon Maker launches a flying kick at Filipino players after being punched 0-45. Australia's Nathan Sobey is hit by a chair thrown into the melee after he rushes to help Goulding. During the brawl, Goulding is pushed to the ground and bashed by 10 opposition players and staff for an extended period of time. Sobey is punched by a Philippines official. A total of 13 players are ejected, including 4 Australians and 9 Filipinos. The match is called off soon afterwards, with the Philippines forfeiting the game. Filipino players pose for smiling selfies just minutes after the violent scenes. Philippines coach Chot Reyes blamed Daniel Kickert for the brawl, saying he punched his players during warm-ups, but Australian basketball CEO Anthony Moore rejected those claims. Australia may have unintentionally angered their hosts by ripping up floor decals they saw as a safety hazard the day before the game. Before the press conference, Mr. Moore told ABC News Breakfast there were no niggles before the game started. "There was an incident, the on-field clash, and then it exploded from there," he said. However, Moore admitted it wasn't the smartest move by officials from the Australian team to rip up floor decals they believed were a safety hazard. The Boomers may have unintentionally angered their opponents by tearing up the advertising boards after players slipped on them a day before. Basketball Australia has apologized to the Philippines Basketball Association, Mr. Moore said. "We had a team shoot around the day before. Floor decals are always something that you look at," he said. "We trained, had numerous players fall heavily, and our team management undertook a course of action that we actually apologized for. We ripped the decals up. That wasn't the smartest move we made. The brawl began when Boomer's guard Goulding was pushed to the ground, and teammate Daniel Kickert retaliated by elbowing Roger Ray Pogoy in the face. Milwaukee Bucks NBA star Thon Maker then launched a flying knee at a group of opposing players, while Philippines center Andrew Blatch blindsided an Australian player with a punch to the back of the head. Players and management could be seen wrestling and strangling each other courtside, with Australia's Nathan Sobey having a chair thrown at his head before he was pinned down on the ground. Despite the shocking level of violence on display, Filipino players posed for selfies after the game, smiling with their teammates just minutes after the brawl ended. Goulding's agent, Daniel Moldovan, said his client was okay but expressed disgust at the involvement of non-players in the brawl. He, Goulding, is a little bit bruised and battered but he is okay, Mr. Moldovan told Sen Breakfast. He is a tough one, which is no surprise to any of us. He is shocked and appalled, as we all are, at what took place. What took place from those who flew off the bench, out of sight and out of mind, the team officials, managers, equipment guys, water boys, whoever they were, going in the fashion that they did, that's where I take serious offense to what took place. Mr. Moore said the players and coaches feared for their safety and questioned why court security was unable to stop the melee. 4 Australian and 9 Filipino players were ejected after the fight, and referees had to be flanked by police during the review of the brawl. A Filipino official at the arena asked those present to show respect to our friends of Australia. "We want to appeal to everybody to please settle down," the game's announcer said. "We didn't want that to happen. We will wait for referee's decision, but please, I would like us to respect the game." The game eventually continued with just 3 Philippines players allowed on the court. The home team was eventually forced to forfeit in a farcical ending to the Monday night game at the Philippine Arena in the province of Bulacan, north of Manila. Some witnesses questioned why the Australian coach kept his players on the bench while the opposition team were all involved. Nathan Sobey and Chris Goulding should be livid at their coach for holding their bench back after seeing the other bench clear, said one observer. The coach made a terrible read of the situation which led to them getting overwhelmed and pummeled. Basketball fans criticized the actions of both teams after the fight. NBA champion Andrew Bogut said the fracas was an absolute disgrace and disgusting. Commentator Shane Heal said the call to continue the game was laughable. Mr. Moore apologized to fans after the game. Basketball Australia deeply regrets the incident in tonight's match between the Boomers and the Philippines in Manila. "We are extremely disappointed with what happened and our role in it," Mr. Moore said in a statement. "This is not the spirit in which sport should be played and certainly not in the spirit in which we aim to play basketball. We apologize to our fans and will await the penalties to be handed down." Mr. Moore reiterated his statements in a press conference on Tuesday, calling the incident deeply regrettable. "Whilst we accept our responsibility for our role in last night's incident, what we don't accept is the action whereby fans and officials get involved in the fray," he said. "You've all seen Nathan Sobey being assaulted by a fan, and we've got Chris Goulding on a pack of players and officials, thrown on the court. We've also got a fan throwing a chair at one of our players. We absolutely find that unacceptable.